It's almost dark. A federal agent is standing near a site I'm not allowed to name. The kind of place where people who work there are trained to notice what doesn't belong. And something in the sky doesn't belong. An orange light appears, just for a second, and then it does something lights are not supposed to do. It releases smaller ones. Red, 2 of them, then 4. Like something opening. The agent turns to his partner and he says, "Are you seeing this?" That question was real. It was asked by a federal law enforcement officer to another federal law enforcement officer near a sensitive security site in the western United States. Now, 6 of them saw it over 2 days, 3 teams from different angles. And they all came back with the same impossible report. Now, here's the part that makes this one different. This was part of the recent 3rd release of UFO files from the Pentagon and the White House. The Pentagon investigated this for nearly 3 years, and they actually explained most of it. Most of it. A piece of what these 6 agents saw survived every ordinary explanation they could throw at it. Just a few days ago, the director of the Anomaly Office signed off with his name to that result. One word at the top of the file: unresolved. Now, I spent 25 years working cases, and in an investigation, the part that survives every explanation, the part that won't fit, that's not the part you ignore. That's the part the whole case turns on. So let's open the file. First thing that matters about this case, there is no video, no photo, and no sensor data. Now, we'll come back to that because the absence turns out it matters. What there is 6 witnesses, and not random ones. Federal law enforcement special agents. 3 teams of 2, stationed near a military site. People who observe and report for a living. And people who already know what's supposed to be in the sky. And they know the aircraft. They know the drill. They know what a flare looks like. Now hold on to that. It matters more than anything else in this file. So when all 6 of them came back with the same specific impossible account, the witness question didn't disappear, but it changed. AARO had to take the report seriously enough to test it. The question became, what did they actually see? Now, let's walk out there with them. Here's what the file says they saw, in the Pentagon's own careful words. A luminous orange orb appears. The agents call it the mother orb. It's there for 1 or 2 seconds, and in that time, it releases a cluster of smaller orbs, 2 to 4 of them. Then the orange one is just gone. And it happens again and again, one after another over several hours. The red orbs don't just drift. The agent describes coordinated movement, changes in altitude, behavior they specifically call anomalous. And then there's this one detail the entire case is going to come down to. One of those red orbs stopped above a ridgeline for several hours. Now put that in the center of the board. Every explanation that AARO is about to test has to answer this one question. What can hang there glowing for hours? Hold that. We're coming back to it. One more thing witnesses kept returning to. It was silent. All of it. No engine, no rotor, no sound at all. 6 agents, 3 teams, different vantage points. And the file notes that they described it in consistent language. The same story from different angles. A single witness can be wrong. 6 witnesses at different positions who independently describe the same specific behavior. Well, that's when you stop looking for the mistake and you start looking for the cause. Now, this is the part of the case that actually gets better for the skeptics. Because the ordinary explanation, well, it works. It really does for most of this. And I want to be fair about that because the Pentagon was fair about it. They didn't hype this, they didn't dismiss it, and they spent nearly 3 years trying to identify it. They took every ordinary explanation and they tried to make it fit. 7 of them. Let's go through it quickly. Aircraft exhaust ruled out. Too high, wrong appearance. And the exhaust doesn't release smaller objects. Drones, unlikely. Standard UAVs run into the same problem as the object at the center of our board. And then there's hours of station keeping. For an adversary platform, highly unlikely. The behavior matches nothing they're known to fly. Weather, ball lightning, inversions, unlikely. The night was clear. Stars, planets, satellites, meteors, unlikely. Wrong behavior, wrong duration, wrong geometry. So every suspect gets crossed off, but the red point stays on the board. Flares. Military aircraft in the airspace were dropping infrared countermeasure flares as part of a standard exercise. It's on the flight logs. It's real. And AARO says the flares possibly account for 60% of what the agents saw. 60%. Now let that sit, because it's the honest part. Most of the case could have been attributed to flares, and radar backs that up for 60%. Known aircraft where the lights were, but 2 things don't fit. The first is the witnesses themselves. Remember, they know what flares look like, and they said on the record, this was not that. And the second is the object at the center of the board, the red orb above the ridge. A flare cannot do that. A flare ignites briefly and it falls, and that's really all that it can do. And the Pentagon's own memo says it plainly, that a stationary object for hours, in their own words, is physically incompatible with the burn time and descent rate of any known military flare. So the flares explain 60%, but as for the other 40, the radar shows nothing. No aircraft, no signal, nothing in the agent's line of sight that should have been making those lights. That 40% that survived, and the rest of this file is about what it is. So let's put the file back together. 6 federal agents, 2 days, different angles, a consistent account of orange orbs releasing smaller red ones in silence over several hours. Now, the Pentagon tested every ordinary explanation, and most of it, maybe even 60% of it, was possibly flares. But the 40% that survived all of it, no aircraft on radar, no drone that hovers for hours, no weather that fits, and no foreign tech that matches. No flares that hang motionless above the ridge. And here's what I keep coming back to. AARO didn't just say the witnesses were credible. They wrote down why they were credible. Because they were agents that knew the operational environment, because they were familiar with U.S. military systems, and because their accounts stayed consistent across different people witnessing this at different angles. Now, that's not a UFO channel vouching for these guys. That's the Department of War's own anomaly office putting witness credibility in writing. Now, I need to be straight with you about the limit because the file's straight about it. There is no proof in the document. There's no recovered object, no photograph, no sensor lock. AARO's strongest statement is that it could be unrecognized technology, their phrase, and that might account for the other 40%. And they label it in the file, their words, unsubstantiated by technical data or physical evidence. So I'm not going to tell you that it was aliens. The file doesn't say that, and neither will I. But go back to that agent at dusk, the one who turned to his partner and said, "Are you seeing this?" 3 years later, the United States government has looked at what he saw. They've ruled out every ordinary thing it could be. And then they signed their name to one conclusion: we don't know either. Here's what gets me about this one. As a former investigator, the easiest thing in the world would have been to close this case. 60% flares, call it solved, move on. Nobody would have questioned it. They've done that to hundreds or thousands of previous cases. But they didn't. After radar, flight logs, ADS-B, flare data, weather, drones, foreign tech deconfliction, after all that, the file still had a remainder. Not proof, but a remainder. 6 agents saw something they couldn't explain. AARO explained most of it, but not all of it. And in an investigation, that remainder is never the part you ignore. It's where the case lives. I'm Buddy T. This is Beyond the Map. This file's still open. We'll keep reading it together. If you enjoyed our account of this recent release, please like and subscribe and share this. Thanks for watching.